where we talk about all the things that we think we should be doing, that we really don't want to be doing anyway, that you probably don't even have to be doing. I am Vanessa Konecki, your host, and I am going to send out a text message to my text alerts people. Text alerts people, official term is what it's called, to let you know that I am live. And then we will get this show on the road for the podcast. Today's podcast is actually really fun. Today we're going to be talking about the idea of spending money just because you made it. It's actually one of the biggest things that kept me locked in a state of feeling like I had to make money like all the time, like constantly working, was the fact that I was spending money as I was making it, which sounds like really weird because obviously you're going to spend money. But the thought processes that I sort of had to go through to change my perspective on making money and keeping money and creating wealth and getting rich, that was what made the huge difference. So I'm really, really excited to share that with you today. All right, here we go. Just now went live. Hallelujah. All right. Sending out the text message. Sending it out right now. If I could find where I go. There we are. Okay. Stop shooting all over yourself is live. Okay. All right. Stop shooting all over yourself is live. Okay, there we go. Bam, done. Okay, now I also need you to know that I am so allergic today. So allergic. It's ridiculous. So my inside of my nose is like itching so insanely. That's probably going to be highly annoying in general for everyone, including me, but we're all going to have to live with it. Hi, Amber. Good to see you. How are you doing today? How is the new house? Amber just moved into her new house, which is super, super exciting, and is moving into getting her new daily routine going, which is super fun because that's what I'm in the middle of doing as well as we're moving into our new house. I'm trying to sort of reset a little bit and figure out what are the things that I need to do each day to feel joy and happiness. All right, so, hey, Ashley, good to see you as well. Good to see you. So today, I don't know if you saw this picture, but, we're purging our entire house. And, last night we had some, people come over to take a lot of our furniture. So, last night, all the furniture in that room is gone. A lot of the furniture in the studio is gone now. Some of the furniture from the bedroom is gone and our coffee table is gone. So we really have barely any furniture. So I have a little bit more of an echo in here, which is kind of funny. The studio now, literally, I showed this the other day, in the squad. You can't see this right now. I'll post this in the wall, on Direct to Success, but I'm literally sitting in a 3-foot area here. So this is here. This is boards that are up. This is currently attached to a bookcase behind the thing, which many of you may have seen. It had Jason Momoa on it in the past. It's literally the tiniest little spot ever. Yesterday, my butt was hurting so bad sitting on the floor. So Marla suggested that I use my yoga pillow or my meditation pillow. So I've got that. What I'm trying to workshop right now is my knee is I feel like there's too much. It's not hyperextended. Maybe it's hyperextended. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's pulling the muscle on the tendon on my knee, and I have bad knees. So I had to get a little stability thing there. So this just goes to show you that you can create a studio in the tiniest little space on the floor of the tiniest little area that you could possibly imagine. And I feel like it looks kind of pro. I'm actually impressed with how it turned out. Check this out though. If I do this, it looks like I'm, Amy yesterday said it looked like I'm in space because there's a lot of there's a lot of reflective stuff in here. I don't really know what it is, but it's reflective, so it looks like I'm in a sea of stars. I prefer this. I prefer this light from the background. Okay, so let's get the show on the road, people. All right, so getting back to my schedule, and it's going great. Amber says you're stalling putting things up on the walls because I don't like to do it. It's so interesting, Amber. So for me, I like to put things on the wall as soon as possible. I actually unpack. I'm a psychotic when it comes to unpacking. So there are very few things in this world that I feel like I do with expert proficiency. Because I just don't want to devote that much time to becoming an expert at lots of things. But this packing and unpacking, oh my God, I can do it in 2 days. I can pack up a house, but I tend to actually pack up a house very slowly over the course of weeks. And then unpacking I can do in 2 days and we're back. We're done. Like, no problem. I think it's because of my anxiety where I need to feel like I have a den. And if I don't have a den, oh, my knee. If I don't have a den, like I feel very unsafe. And so I think for me early on when I was moving a lot, it was about making sure that whatever place I went into immediately felt like I was in like my den, like a den space. Alrighty, Ashley started your business because you needed to make $250 a month to pay for your daughter's braces. Okay, dude, this is so powerful. We're going to come back to this. Absolutely. It's amazing. I went from earning $20K a year, working 50-hour weeks to over $250K a year, all because I wanted to make $250 a month. That is so, it's cool and it's important to recognize that what you started with is sometimes not the same as where you're at right now. And sometimes that's purposeful. Sometimes it's accidental. Sometimes it's like, oh, this is amazing. And sometimes it's, oh, this sucks, right? But I love that you said that because it draws the distinction between where you were before and why you started and where you are right now. Elisa says, I was literally listening to the October welcome and subscribing to the squad calendar as you popped up. Oh my God, I'm like all over the place now. Oh my, I love my squad. This month's video for the social strategy squad has the best song at the beginning of it. I would love to know what you guys thought of the song. And bonus points for random bonus points, if you can tell me who sang, what song it is, right? I didn't actually put the song, I didn't put the name of the song because I wanted to know how many of you were going to message me and be like, oh my God, I love that song. Okay. And Amber says, so true. My customers thought my setup was so much more complicated than it really is. Oh, guys, I'm going to show you a picture of how uncomplicated this setup actually is. It's so uncomplicated. Alrighty, we got a pod when we knew we were moving so we could clear out the house and pick up the pod as we went. That's so what we're doing is the pod is coming here and then we're gonna what's the word? We're gonna fill it up. Like we're gonna have movers just come and fill it up. But I've been slowly packing things in here. So yeah, very similar, but I've been packing it and just piling things in rooms. Very similar. My husband grew up with a contractor dad, so I would throw stuff. Oh, I see. I'd throw stuff up on push pins and he wants the wall drilled and anchored. Oh yeah. Forget that. No. Amber, I'm with you. I would not do it if it had to be like, I'm with you. If Alex was following me around the house trying to like anchor and do everything properly, I would just be like, no. For me, I walk in and I'm like, here's some nails. Here's a hammer. I feel like it should go here. And then there you go. And then I'm like, I feel like it should go there. There you go. And every single thing I put up is based off of my feelings. Not a single thing goes up there based off of like measuring or anchoring and then I'm like, oh shit, this isn't going to go in here. I need to get an anchor. And I just pull it out and then I'll put something else in. It's like, whatever, who cares? The picture's going to cover it anyway. Right. Alrighty. That is so funny. Yeah. I'm with you. Push pins and thumbtacks. Like, I don't know what's up with this whole anchoring thing. Like, I mean, sure. If I'm going to put my TV up, I'm going to want some like hardcore anchoring and studs and whatever. But if I'm putting up a picture, just a little nail, doop, 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 done. It's fine. Just use the force. I put stickers where I want stuff. That's a good one. Just put the stickers on and be like, you do it. The only thing for me is that like a lot of times, I don't know if your husband does this, but where it's like, oh yeah, I'll take care of it. And then it kind of sits there for like 6 weeks and you finally do it. And they're like, oh yeah, I was going to do it. It's like, yeah, but it's been 6 weeks and it's not done yet. And not a huge deal. Like it's not a problem. Things happen. Life happens. And it's not like I'm upset. It's just like, oh yeah, I'll just do it. It's fine. No big deal. Okay. So let's get to the live recording. And then we will come back to the Q&A part because we'll do the recording of the podcast and we'll come back to the Q&A. For those of you that don't know, this is the live recording of the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast. This one's going to be a big one. We're going to be touching upon some of the stuff that we talked about in the squad earlier this week. So if you're in the squad, you can go watch that intent from October 4th. But if not, this is where you're going to get that information. All right. So I can practically guarantee that after listening to this, you're going to have a lot of really great ideas about how, like, I'm going to give you some guidelines, but you're going to come up with the ideas on your own as I'm talking. You're going to be, I think, inspired to have these different ways of creating profit, wealth, and money in your life and creating freedom. Because a lot of us only have one way in which we think about creating freedom, and that's by making more money. And honestly, that's what keeps us locked in a space of constantly doing and needing to make money and looking at everything as an opportunity to make money and not necessarily an opportunity to enhance our lives or to have an impact on someone. I don't mean that in a bad way or in a judgmental way, right? This is not a judgment thing, but it is an indication. It is the framework that we put down that keeps us locked in that feeling of, I have to keep going, right? And that's where nobody really wants to be. Nobody likes to feel like they're on a treadmill Like imagine if you're on a treadmill that's like facing, like it's hanging off of a cliff, right? The back end of it's hanging off a cliff and it's going just a little too fast for you to stay on. And so, but like if you don't keep up, you're going to fall off the cliff, right? And nobody wants to feel like that's their business. No one wants to feel like that's what income is. But I will tell you from experience that it doesn't matter how much money you're making. I have known people making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month who feel that way. And I've known people who are making $500-$600 a month who feel that way. And people who are making nothing feel that way. The actual amount of money that you make does not change whether or not you feel that desire to constantly keep going, right? And so that's what I really want to talk about today is that feeling of I need to keep going. I need to keep working. How can I fit work into my day? The almost desperate need to make money. Okay. So I want to talk about that in terms of my life, where that came from, what I've learned over the years, and what some of the techniques are that can help you to reframe your perspective on money and income so that you feel like there's more than one way to skin a cat. So you don't feel like the only way for you to get where you're trying to go is to just keep working. I want to give you more options. So that's ultimately what you're going to have at the end of this podcast is more options. Now, the way that this is going to work is I'm just going to record, not look at the comments, but while I am recording, please feel free to ask all of your questions. Like just keep them coming because you're going to have them as I'm talking. I will come back after the recording's over and we'll do the Q&A. I'll answer some questions. This is a great time for you to get personal coaching on the live if you want to ask any questions like that or to get some clarity on things. But this is something that is super powerful. It literally changed my life. Money is absolutely helpful. Absolutely. Exactly what you said, Amber. But it is not everything. The way you deal with money is actually more important than how much money you're making because I've known people who are making $10,000 a month who had more profit than people who are making $100,000 a month, right? So it's not necessarily the money that you're bringing in. There's clearly something else to the equation, all right? Okay, so I'm going to take a drink of iced tea and then we'll get the show on the road. I think I need to blow my nose first. I have a nosebleed today, so. All right. Okay, we're ready. If only I can remember my intro. I always struggle with my intro. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast, your destination for discarding all the things that you don't want to be doing anyway. There are so many things in our lives that we've learned that we feel like we need to do in our businesses. And over the years, you know what? I'm going to start that again. I don't like the way that started. I don't like it. We're going to do it again. Okay, do it again. Tuck. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast. This is take 2 of the intro. And today we're going to be talking about money and finances and how there may be more than one way for you to create more profit in your business that doesn't involve you working 24/7 or adding more hours into your day or finding ways to be more efficient. Those are great ways, and I talk about them all the time, but they are not the only way to make money, and they're not the only way that you're going to be able to create wealth and freedom in your life. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about where that comes from, how we end up there, and then what you can do to feel like you're making more money, even if you don't get another customer today, right? So when I first started my business back in, my first independent business that I started probably, I believe it was late 2015, but I had been helping someone else with their business prior to that. Okay. So I had been working in a biotech firm, someone else's small business. I helped them run it before I started my own, and I helped them start it too. So when I first started my business, right, my business, it was because I wanted freedom of time, because I wanted to not have to work all the time because my other job was very, very demanding. And I wanted to be able to have the potential to make more money than I would at a 9-to-5 job where I was capped by the number of hours I could work. And I was capped by, I was salaried at the time, so I was capped by my salary, right? Now, the thing with running my own business is, of course, it's riskier, but it has the potential for more income. Now, when I first started, I was not very clear on what my goals were for starting a business other than I wanted to make more money and I wanted to get out of debt. Okay. So like if you were to have said like, okay, why did you start your own business? What are you making money for? It would be, I just don't want to feel like I constantly have to pay debt. Cause it was hanging over my head. I wanted to have financial freedom. Now the problem when I look back now, because I can reflect on it, was that I was making a lot of money. I was making, what was I making then? I think I was making like $175,000 a year when I was at my corporate job. And then when I left that, I was making more than that when I started my own business. Okay. So this is just to give you an idea that I was making a lot of money, but, I also needed new things. Okay. So in my new business, I need new clothes, and then I needed Freebirds, and then I needed a bigger car for my inventory. And then, do we need to renovate the garage so that Sarah can, so that we can put inventory in there? And then what else? I wanted to pay for vacations. Oh, I need a new printer. I needed a programmer for my website. Do I need this piece of software? And because the money was coming in, it was so much easier for me to say yes to these other things that I thought would help me make even more money, right? I'm like, oh yeah, sure, because the money is coming in, right? Now, whether the money is coming in or not, right? So for me, I was fortunate. The money was coming in and I was like, oh yeah, spend the money on this, spend the money on this, spend the money on this. But I have clients who the money is not flowing in that quickly, right? Before they come to me, the money isn't flowing in that quickly. But when they come to me, they also have this long list of subscriptions and things that they're spending money on and coaches and just they're spending money on a lot of different things, right? A ton of different things. Some are necessary, some are not. But the fact that they were not making as much money as they wanted didn't necessarily impact whether they were spending the money on that or not, right? So that's the important part, is that we continue to spend even when money is coming in. So how much profit are we actually making, right? So that's a big question there. How much profit are you actually making? Because all of those things, so as I'm spending money on all those things, I was incurring more debt, right? So I'm like, okay, so I'm putting it on my card, I'm incurring more debt, and then I'm making more money. And for me, I was like, I'm spending all this time away from my family. I'm not doing any, I had no time to sleep. I was sick. I was not enjoying my life. So for me, it was like, I'm working really hard for this money. I want to get some enjoyment out of it. Like literally, I want to be able to do something, right? Like other than just be miserable because I'm working all the time and I never see my husband. I haven't talked to him about anything in ages. You know, my dogs barely knew who I was at that point. It was a really challenging time for me, right? Now, when I look back, I realized that what I didn't understand at the time was that I had locked myself into a cycle where I would actually never be free of needing to make money, because I was always going to have debt with my spending habits because I just kept spending. And so I had more debt. And so I had to make more money. And then I was spending, and it just keeps going and going and going. And I saw this, and sometimes it was huge, like we're talking big amounts of money, and other times it was small. And when I look back over the course of my life, this habit has been the same since I was a kid. And we'll talk a little bit more about that because over the years, it's injured me significantly. I was almost evicted from my apartment when I was 21. My sister and I were almost homeless, and it was the most terrifying time of my life. And it was directly as a result of that habit. That same habit that made it so that I had to count pennies to buy tomatoes is the exact same habit that put me in a position where when I was making a lot of money, I was just spending a lot of money. So the habit didn't change. And I ended up back in that same situation no matter how much money I was making. So over time, it made me realize that making money is only one part of the equation. There's something else there that we need to really be looking at. So that was my internal impetus, right? So for me, it was like I was spending money, right? But when you think about why we spend money, right? So let's talk about a little bit about why we spend money. It's not just internal, okay? There's also external forces, okay? So for me, the external forces, there's two different types. There's your community group, so like your immediate group of people that you're with. And then there's your larger group, the society, right? Society, media, that kind of thing. So in the smaller group that I was in, the people that I knew who were also making a lot of money also had very poor spending habits, incredibly poor spending habits. So they did the same thing that I was doing, which is, oh, look, I've made money. I'm going to spend money, right? I'm going to buy cars. I'm going to buy more Freebirds. I'm going to buy Kate Spade purses. I'm going to go, whatever it is, right? We're just spending money, buy a more expensive house. Like I'm just going to keep spending it because I'm making it. I should spend it. I'm making it. I should spend it. Now, this is not to say that anybody ever pressured me to spend money and say, oh, wow, you're such a loser if you're not spending money. But if you're hanging out with a group of people, remember, you know how they say that you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with? Well, if you're hanging out with 5 people and those 5 people are spending thousands and thousands of dollars all the time, then you become the person who's spending a lot of money all the time, right? So if you're a business owner who hangs out with 5 people who think that the only way to solve the business problems is to spend more money on it, then you're going to become a business owner who feels like the only way to solve a problem is to spend more money on it. What we don't realize is that we're just adopting these behaviors and attitudes without actually asking the question, is it helping me to achieve the goal that I wanted when I first started my business in the first place, right? You'll notice that everything that I've been talking about since I asked the question at the very beginning of, why did you start your business in the first place, has been all about spending, right? But not a single bit of it has been about, have I been able to achieve what I wanted to when I first started my business, which is why so many of us feel unfulfilled, unhappy, scared, like there's a hole that is not being filled and we just keep spending money to fill it, is because we're trying to solve not a money problem with money, right? So now let's go to the larger societal pressures as well, right? So the larger societal pressures are, so years ago, I got married not to Alex, my first husband. And he inherited a large sum of money, like a millionaire sum of money. So I was a millionaire. And for 1 year of my life. And having been a millionaire, I can say that money definitely solves a lot of problems, but it also can create a huge number of problems because in my mind, when you have money, you spend it, right? And what do you do? What do you spend it on, right? You spend it on a new house. So I bought a nice new house in Needham, Massachusetts, which is ridiculously expensive and nowhere near where I needed to live back then, but I needed to show that we had money and so fine. We got the house in Needham. Incidentally, that house was we got that house for my mom to die in. So she came, she lived there. She had a wonderful few months and then she passed. Shortly thereafter, I got a divorce and then Jeff sold the house. Fun fact, the house, I drove by it a few years ago and I had my realtor check it out. It's now duplexes and each one sells for $1 million. We bought the house itself for $600,000 in 2005. It's like, whoa, right? Now, why did I do that? Why did I buy that big house and buy the car? And honestly, I have never been more miserable. Okay, that's an exaggeration. I have been more miserable, but I was very miserable at that time. Not just because I lost my mother, but just I was miserable in general because I thought that having money was going to solve my problems and it didn't. I was still unhappy in my marriage. My mother was still dying. None of these things, all these horrible things were still happening and the money wasn't helping. Okay. So, for us, in America especially, because a lot of us were raised in the 80s, we were raised with this idea of like, you have money, you spend it. Most people don't want to have $1 million. Most people want to spend $1 million, okay? That is such a whoa realization for me, was recognizing that I really didn't want $1 million. I wanted to spend $1 million. And I had to sit with that for a while to really think about like how that was impacting my life, right? Because I was really creating the world in which I was going to be chasing money forever, right? I didn't understand how much I had done that until I started to really think about what was I earning? What was I spending? What am I focusing my time on, right? I spent a lot of time thinking about what I need to be happy in my life, in the present, right now and in the future, okay? Now, the future is retirement planning. It's a conversation for another day. But the present day, okay, for present day, what do I need to be happy? Okay, and that's what I want you to really think about right now, as just sort of as I'm talking or as you're marinating on it over the course of the next couple days, right? What do you need to be happy in your life right now? Not necessarily money-wise. For me, I want to be able to pay my bills at the house. I want to be able to run my business. I don't want to worry about money. Okay, so that actually has a dollar amount associated with it, by the way. Not worrying about money isn't an esoteric thing that I say. I actually know the dollar amount that I need to make each month to where I will not be concerned, okay? I want to be able to work whenever I want to during the day, not on a set schedule. So like I get up, I do my morning routine. After I do my 10 o'clock live, then I can go off and do whatever else it is that I want, right? Oh, look, I'm going to work now. I want to be able to like work as I feel like it, but because I know I'm going to want to work, I just want to work when I feel like it. I don't want to work where it's like, okay, I have to work right now because it's 1 p.m., right? I don't like that for me. I don't want to feel like I have to work. I want to feel like I take joy in my work and I do it because it's meaningful to me and I make money as a consequence. So sort of that's what I want. You know, that's my idealized world. I'm not exactly there yet, but now that I've really written that out, I'm like, okay, what are some of the things I can do to help get there? So we'll talk a little about that later on. But even though this is what I want, what I just listed out, if I look back on my life for the last 10 years or so, and I want you to do the same thing for yourself, right? When you think about what does your day-to-day life look like when you're joyous, right? I wake up, I meditate, I eat, I hang out with my dogs, I take my meds, right? I read my cards. These are the things that I do. And those are the things that bring me joy. And so far, none of those things are super expensive, right? Those are all things I can do, you know? So for me, at that point, I just need to pay my bills. So really think about like, where does the money come in? Where do you need the money? So at that point, it means I really just need to be able to eat. I need to be able to pay my bills at the house so I have a roof over my head, right? You really start to get an idea of what you actually need to live that happy life. But in the past 10 years, I have not lived my life that way. And if I think about it, right, I feel like the last 10 years, I just felt a desperate need to keep making more money. And when I really think about it, in my entire life, I have never felt like there was enough money. I have always been afraid. I've lived in terror my whole life. And, well, not anymore as much, right? I still find myself going back to that space, but I've done a lot of mental work, a lot of therapy, a lot of work with my money mindset coach, Amy Crean, who is godsend. Ashley, I know that you love money mindset work. I know that you just got certified also. The money mindset work that I've done has been very powerful. but I'm fighting against 40 years of programming, 40 years of fear, 40 years of living that way. So I'm going to drift back, but I know the tools that it takes to bring me back to sort of like, okay, I'm feeling good now, right? But they come from somewhere, right? So these feelings they didn't just come out of nowhere. And where they come from is money insecurity. For me personally, it was money insecurity when I was a child. In the social strategy squad, I've talked a lot about my youth and the money situations that we had. And we were very food and money insecure. Often my dad ran his own business and he was feast or famine. Sometimes we were, buying all kinds of fun stuff. And then other times we had nothing. And I learned all of my spending habits from watching him. And he has extremely poor spending habits, which he knows. And, not anymore actually, but when I was growing up. And we've talked about this over the years because he's in therapy too. And so we spend a lot of time talking about how we ended up where we're at and what some of those things are that put us here, right? So that's where it comes from for me. And then of course, always almost being evicted in my 20s and having to work like 3 to 4 jobs just to, like, Syra and I both were working 3 jobs just to make sure that we didn't get evicted and we could pull ourselves out of that hole. And we had to borrow money from our aunt. It was really embarrassing and it was very sobering for us, right? But those are the things that impact how I view money. Those are the things that impact how I spend money. These things leave their scars inside, whether you're paying attention to them or not, right? So I worked through a lot of this in therapy. I would recommend also, if you want to work through this with your therapist. Therapists are amazing for this. But you also want to put systems in place to reinforce the behaviors that you're working through in therapy, right? You can't really just do one on its own. You've got to have a system in place to reinforce what you learn in therapy. And if you're not doing therapy, because I know that it's really hard to find therapists right now, but I still recommend trying or checking out an app or something to get a therapist, right? If not, the systems will help to put you on the right track until you're able to find one. Now, the thing is if you don't, right, as long as you stick with this chase where you're like, I constantly have to chase money. I need to make money, gotta go, right? For whatever reason, your days will get longer, your health is going to suffer, and you're going to end up making some really, really big financial mistakes. Like, for example, like me, where I forgot to pay $70,000 in taxes. And you can hear all about that sordid tale in the Why Are We Shouting podcast with Jill Salzman. The link to that is in the show notes. Now, here's the thing. There is a solution to this, all right? So there's a solution to all this. I've spent a lot of time telling you what the problem is, and the reason why I wanted to spend this much time on it is because this is deep stuff. This is hard stuff. And for a lot of people, it's new ways of thinking, or I'm reminding you of something you thought before where you're like, oh yeah, I remember thinking that. Oh, I got to come back to that, right? But regardless, this is a very hard process to go through emotionally, intellectually, and psychologically, right? So I wanted to really explain where these things come from for me and where I've observed them coming from so that you can reflect upon your own life and start to sort of figure out where these things come from for you. Now, the solution, okay, it's a bit of a lengthy exercise. Like, it's not like you sit down lengthy, like spend 4 hours writing an essay. It's not that kind of lengthy. But it's lengthy in that you will want to give yourself time to breathe through this process, marinate on it, dream with it, meditate on it, whatever, right? And we're going to make sure that you get this in the show notes so that you can follow along if you need to, right? The first thing is you need to reprogram your relationship with happiness and money. Happiness and joy. Sorry. You need to reprogram your relationship with happiness and joy. Okay. I want you to think about why you started your business in the first place, like we talked about earlier, right? I'd recommend meditating. So like meditate, use Headspace, give yourself some time to sit in silence, peace. Like, hey, if you have kids, do it in the shower, right? But just give yourself time to think about why you started your business and like what financially, and like what was it that you were looking for emotionally? What is it that you thought you were going to get? What kind of day were you thinking of having? If you have trouble meditating, I recommend downloading Headspace. Use their guided meditation. Dora is amazing. She's absolutely amazing. Just have her guide you through it. It's awesome. Now, ignoring everything that you see on Instagram, on Facebook, or on social media, right? I want you to really think about what a successful day looks like for you, right? And when you say, I went to bed feeling good, right? What does that day look like? And start to really think about it. So for me, I told you my mornings, right? I have a very specific morning. And if I don't have that routine in the morning, my day is completely thrown off, right? It just totally is derailed. That morning ritual brings me joy just by existing, right? And I've been adding little things to it over the years to sort of craft my perfect day, right? So I'm crafting my perfect day, starting from the morning, working my way down, okay? So What needs to happen for you to have that day, right? That's the question. That's the next question, is what needs to happen for you to have that day, right? So earlier on, I was talking about, well, in order for me to be able to have my morning, I need to be able to pay my mortgage and I need to be able to buy food, right? Those are the bare minimums of what I need to do. And there are other things, right? Like I need to structure my schedule so that my first live isn't until 10, because otherwise I'm not going to get through my morning routine, right? It used to be at 9, and then I realized that, wow, my morning routine actually goes until 10. So I moved all my lives to 10 when I relaunched, because I was like, I needed to fit into my day. So what are the things that you can do to start to put nails down on your day to where you're like, okay, this is anchored, this is anchored, this is anchored, so that you have a few anchors that you can use to guide you through your day, which will make you feel a lot more focused and you'll get a lot more done. Okay. The next thing, the second step, is you need to get your head on straight with money. Okay. So and that's just something that has to happen. Chances are, if you are my age, so I'm 44. So if you are anywhere 44 plus or in the Gen X generation, you grew up in the 80s. If you're probably like a millennial, then your parents probably grew up in the 80s, or your older siblings did. But the reason why that's important is because the 80s were a time of gluttony and consumption. And we were programmed for gluttony and consumption as part of our makeup, because that's all we saw growing up. Greed is good, Gordon Gekko. Remember, like that was the 80s. It is so important that you think of your relationship with money as a relationship in your life. I have a relationship with my dad, my sister, my husband, my dogs, my house, my town, my money. Okay, what does that relationship look like? And be intentional about that relationship, right? The way to do that is go through all of your expenses and make each one justify itself, right? Make it fight for its, like make a second you over here and just fight back and forth. Why do you have to do this? And it's not about judgment. It's just about make that expense fight for its right to be on your list of expenses. Okay. What joy is it bringing your life? Is it fulfilling something necessary? Are you making money off of it? Is it improving your business? If not, toss it to the curb. The more money you're spending, the more money you're going to have to make. The less money you spend, the less money you have to make, the less desperate you're going to feel. I discovered to my shock that I could actually work half as much as I wanted to just by adjusting my expenses. And a lot of my clients find the same thing. They don't realize how much their expenses have inflated over the years because we don't often pay attention to those kinds of things, or they don't realize that they don't need to be spending all this money on their business, right? If you are in the Social Strategy Squad, you can watch the intent from October 4th, where we went over it in extensive detail, how to do this, okay? Now start thinking, and here's the second thing about this, start thinking about profit instead of income, okay? Profit instead of income, right? The reason why that's so important is because profit is what happens between income and expenses. So if you are looking at your expenses as things to reduce, right, that means that you are automatically creating more profit even if you don't make more money, right? And that's the key. How can you create more profit in your life? You don't care how much money you make, because again, like I said, I've known people making $100,000 a month who took home just a few $1,000s, and I knew people who were making $10,000 a month who took home more than that $100,000 a month person. It is not always about your money that's coming in. So when you look at people who are selling a ton, be mindful that you have no idea what their expenses look like, their profit. There's a very big difference between cash flow and profit. Okay. Profit is what makes you wealthy and rich. Cash flow just makes you feel like you have a lot of money, but you could be you could be living on the edge of a knife and still have a lot of cash flow. That is really important to recognize. Cash flow is not profit. Cash flow is not success. Cash flow is not security. Profit and what you do with it, that is your security. All right. So one of the things now here's what happens. Here's what happens. When my clients start to do this exercise, what they find is they realize that they don't need as much money as they thought. They discover that a lot of what they were spending their money on was stuff that they didn't even want. They were just doing it because they weren't getting fulfillment elsewhere, and they were using the money to buy something to fulfill some other kind of need. They start to eliminate additional expenses, and because they're doing that, they take a more active role in their finances because things don't seem so dire or scary when you're able to harness control over your finances. Now this happens because you finally know what you actually want related to money, and you understand how to connect that to your business, right? You understand how to put these pieces together, right? And once you know that, then you know how to judge your expenses and your income and the value of certain things. But for most people, because they don't know what they actually want to get out of their business other than just, I want to make more money, which is not a good goal, because I want to make more money is an eternal goal. It never ends. More money, what is that, right? And so they end up spending the money because they're making the money and they don't know what they want. So you get yourself in the same cycle that I was in, where you feel like a desperate need to constantly be making money, right? So here's what I want to leave you with, right? Okay. Take your time with this. I know that it can be really seductive to dive in and want to solve this problem like today. Now that you know, you're like, oh my God, that's so true. I totally get it. I can do this. And you're going to dive right in and revamp everything financially in one day, right? Please don't do that. You're going to burn yourself out in a week, all right? Give yourself time to sit in this space, listen to the podcast a couple of times, watch the replay, give your subconscious time to get used to the idea so that it doesn't rebel against you in a week, because your body, if you make a big sweeping change between 1 to 2 weeks from now, it is going to rebel and you'll just stop doing it and be right back, actually further behind than you started, because it springs you back, okay? There was a time when I thought I was alone out there with my belief systems about money, success, and income. I thought that there was something wrong with me because I couldn't seem to figure out the trick. No matter how many new tools I tried, no matter how many systems I tried, I just couldn't figure out how to be able to make money and not feel like desperate all the time, right? And I thought I was so alone. I literally thought I was alone in this. Like, I know it sounds ridiculous now to say, but I thought I was alone and everybody else had just figured it out. And it turns out there are millions of us out there who aren't talking about these issues. We're all struggling with them. And yes, it is millions. And so we're not able to get out of some of the really bad patterns we find ourselves in because we think we're alone. So we're not talking about it because we're embarrassed or ashamed. That's why I talk about all of my financial mistakes, because I am successful. I am living literally what I feel is my best life. But I have made so many mistakes, so many mistakes. My life right now is paved with mistakes. But I'm still able to find joy, right? But if we don't talk about that, then it just looks like people only have joy, no mistakes, no problems, everything's fine, right? And that's why we all need to be talking about these things so that we realize we're not that alone, right? The good news is that there are a lot of us, and because there's more people talking about it now, we're learning every day, right? I began feeling happier almost immediately after I started working through some of these ideas, and my life completely changed when I hired Amy Crean as my money mindset coach. Seriously, if you want to work with someone who will sort out your money issues, I cannot recommend her enough. Her contact information will be in the show notes. But start with marinating and sitting with what you heard today. If you have questions or you need help, head over to the business page where we recorded this live and ask your question on the thread. The link is also in the show notes. If you want to watch the podcast recording live, join us every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern on the Direct to Success business page on Facebook and join the Q&A after. You can also join the conversation for this episode on the page. I know that this podcast, I really, really feel like this podcast is going to change lives. So please leave us a review and let other business owners know how it's helping you. My mission in life is to help as many women as I can feel joy and confidence in their business again. And your referrals will help me get the message out to more and more people. So it will help me get out to more and more people. I appreciate it. And so will your business besties. I was so close. I got to the end and cut. Alrighty, guys. That was the podcast for today. And let's go to some chats and see what we have going on here. Okay, let's see. Ooh, so many chats. Okay. Alrighty. So let's talk about, alrighty, Elisa. I never would have worried about money until by the way, guys, keep asking now, just keep it going. This is all conversation time. All right. So keep it coming. All right. Elisa said, I never worried about money until last month. And now I feel panicky inside, like I'm paralyzed and actually working less. Elisa, I actually thought of you when I was writing this a little bit because I was thinking about the conversation that we had on office hours. And I think that that's very similar. It's that feeling. And a lot of the paralysis, and I think, comes from the fact that, let me give you an analogy that's easier because just to explain, because it came to mind. So over the last after I put the tribe work in place that I got from Stu, right? So many of you know that I took a course at the beginning of the year to revamp the social strategy squad because I could tell that something needed to be done and it would change my life, change the squad. Like, honestly, the kinds of stuff that's coming out of the squad right now is just mind-blowingly amazing. Like, from you guys are incredible with what you're doing with what's in there. But I haven't had to work as much now. Like, I have a lot of free time in my day, even with all the packing. I'm very tired and I'm very fatigued emotionally, and just because it's been a hard month, but I do still have a lot of time. And Alex was like, you seem listless. And I said, I know, I am. And I was like, the reason why is because I've spent so much time feeling like I had to fill time up that now when I have free time, I feel my default position is to work because that's what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what else to do. And if I'm not making money, right, my internal clock or my internal metric system for many years was I am only worth, my value on this planet is only worth the amount of money I can make, right? I don't feel that way anymore, but I had that for a very long time. But old habits die hard, right? So even though I intellectually and emotionally and all that understand all that, when the moment actually comes where I'm sitting and I don't have anything to do, I default back to work. And the problem is that that's just going to put me right back on that train. So I've just been spending time literally doing nothing. I've been meditating, I've been walking because I'm trying to break that habit and recognize that like these feelings that I have are residual feelings. And it's a difficult thing to work through, Elisa. It's very, very challenging. So for me, that's like work related, right? And that's where that came from. But I think for you have been working, this on this mindset of making money. And Mindy Hughes mentioned this about herself a while back when she started her horticulture, because she's an urban horticulturist, and she wanted to start a business helping people with their gardening and urban planning. But after doing it for like a couple weeks, she was starting and she's like, I don't really want to do this. She's like, I don't want to feel like I have to make money out of everything that I do. And that was such a wise statement that I felt my entire world blew open when she said that. I was like, oh my God, I have felt for so long that if I could do it, I need to find a way to make money out of it. And though, yes, of course, there are some things for which that's true, it's not always. So I think that for a lot of us, it's working through a lot of these psychological relationships that we have with money and working and stuff like that, because I know I get paralyzed the same way, and so afraid. So like right now I'm so like, I swing back and forth, but not at this instant. But a week ago, I was so afraid. A week ago, I was just so afraid because there's just so much money going out right now with the house and the moving and everything. I say to Alex, I said, I'm like, I'm so anxious. I'm so scared. And he's like, well, how can I help you? Because he handles all the money part. And I said, this is what I'm afraid of, because now I know how to give language to what I'm afraid of. And he says, okay, let me reassure you. We've saved up for this. We have the money for this. Even though, and he's told me this like 10 times before, I know the money's there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it's there. My gut in here is like, we're not going to have enough money. Oh my God, what if we move to the house and we're house poor and then we have to leave it and I got my dream house and I don't even know what it is that I'm afraid of, but I just go and I have to pull myself back and recognize that these are bad habits that I'm bringing with me from the past, that Manessa 2.0, I think I'm 4.0 at this point, like 4.0, Manessa 4.0, because I think every decade I kind of change. So Manessa 4.0, that's not how I relate to the world, right? And I have to remind myself that these are residual behavior patterns from Manessa 3.0, 2.0, 1.0, right? And you don't just get rid of them just because like, I'm like, okay, I've decided it, right? Okay. Love those free birds. Oh my God, I love free birds. Okay, so Amber says, gosh, everything you're saying is exactly what my brain was saying. What is necessary? I've always heard rich people don't spend money. They don't. And let me tell you something. So Alex handles all the money in the house, all right? So I want to be really upfront and honest with you about everything that we do so you know how we do this. I am very good at making money. Like, I'm really good at it. Like, I can find opportunities to make money and I can find opportunities for other people to make money. That's why I do what I do, because I'm good. I get it from my father. He is also very good at it. My sister is also very good at it. These are just, it's like the force, right? The problem is this. I never know what to do with it. And because I am so poverty minded, right? And I say this without judgment. I'm not saying poverty minded in like with all the societal judgment and baggage that comes with it. I just mean that I come from a place where I am so fearful of not having anything because I have not had things, right? That I live in that space. So for me, I'm a mattress hoarder. Okay. So what that means is I take my money and I put it in a mattress, and mattress being a bank, right? But that's what I do with it. And when Alex and when after the $70,000 mistake I made with the taxes, which another podcast, right? It's the Why Are We Shouting podcast. If you want to hear that story, we were forced to have discussions we'd never had before. And as a result, I understood that he had a much better understanding of what to do with money than I did. And so we made a deal. And this was where our relationship changed, because prior to that, I was independent with my money. He was independent with his money. And I kind of ran the house and everything was separate. And then, we changed everything and we really integrated our finances because I was unable to fulfill the duties that I had been able to do for the prior decade or two in my life, which is managing money. I would say I managed it well because obviously I made it through, but I wasn't managing it healthily. Imagine how much richer and wealthier I would be if I had managed it appropriately. So I handed over the money to him, right? So now I make the money. It comes into my Direct to Success business account. I do the finances for the business, and then I give him the tax information, like expenses and income. And then he takes care of taxes. He takes care of paying me my salary every month. He takes care of pulling money out for the house. He takes care of everything. All I do is make the money and just make it available to him. That's it. I put stuff on my card. I pay my card off every month because I am not capable, and I don't want to say, okay, let's put it at my current state, I am not capable, and I do not want to put in the time, effort, and energy necessary to become capable to do what it is that he's doing. Okay, that's not somewhere I want to spend my time. So I gave it to him. I said, here you go. And so now he manages that, right? He puts everything in retirement. Every single thing is in retirement. So for me, that's terrifying because I'm a mattress hoarder, right? So when I look at my bank account and it's like low, it's so hard. So I don't look at my bank account because even though I know that there's money elsewhere and that he has stuff in places and he has it all written down and everything for me to look at if I want to. And he said he'll go through it with me anytime. But even though that's the case, I look at my bank account and immediately I just want to cry on the floor. These old habits and these old wounds don't go away just because I've become smarter. And I have to be kind to the child in me who feels that fear when she sees it. And that's okay. But I also have to recognize that I don't live in that space anymore. I need to write down everything I'm spending and making and eliminate excess. Absolutely. That is the first and most powerful thing you can do. Let me tell you something. I was working with a client, kid you not. I saw she was making all this money, right? Like, cause I saw her making money, right? And I knew she was making like, oh my God, like 60, 70,000. It was a lot. It was it's like somewhere between 50 and 60. I can't remember the exact number now because it's been a couple of years. But it was high. And, no, it was 40. It's 40. And, she was like, I just always feel like I just always feel behind, right? So I look at her expenses and her monthly expenses for her home alone were 30 grand. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I did not even understand. How do you have a 30 grand? What? I don't know how you spend 30 grand in a month. I have no idea how you do that. Neither did she. So she starts looking at it and she was so upset and was so judgmental of herself because she could see how it had happened. And I was like, that is one way of looking at it. Absolutely. Let me give you another way. You just found a way to work less because now when you get rid of all these things, you can make half the amount that you need to, because I could tell just by looking at her expenses, she was going to be able to cut it down by like half. When she cuts those expenses down, suddenly her profit margin is so much higher, right? She has so much more money. I was like, you can continue to work the way you're working, but now you can put money in retirement. Now you'll have extra, you'll have surplus, or you can work less, or you have so many more options now. So yeah, it sucks that you got here, but think of the possibilities. You can do pretty much anything now, right? And she was like, oh my God, right? And so she went through, it took her about 6 months to like, it was a long journey, 6 months to get to like the place where she wasn't hemorrhaging, and then a year to be a place where literally she was like, I don't feel like I'm working enough. And I'm like, well, are you making enough money? And she's like, well, yeah. And I was like, well, then what's the problem? She goes, I don't know. I just feel like I should be working. Right? Exactly. Amber, I can tell that my money mindset was greatly influenced by my mom, who had issues because of her upbringing. Exactly. It all filters down, and it's okay. Like, none of this is judgment. I think when I was younger, I would have resented somebody telling me this. I would have been like, oh, I'm not like that. And maybe you're hearing it and somebody's hearing this and they are feeling that way. And if that's the case, I am sorry that you feel that way, but it's not going to change the fact that when you do make this realization, your life will be very different. And that was the thing. For me, the hardest part was the resentment to the acceptance. That is the longest journey. It's always the longest journey. Once you accept it and you know the steps to take, you'll take the steps. The resentment to acceptance takes forever. Some things it takes me a few months. Some things it takes me a few years. Some things, oh my God, for my dad, it took me almost 10 years. 10 years to go from resentment to acceptance. Okay. Alrighty. Right. I know. I want it now. Right. That's what I always think of. That honestly, I have that in that GIF in so many of my presentations because I feel like we're all violet. We are all violet. We want it now. Right. And I am okay with saying that I am a complete brat I want it all now. Instant gratification. I want experience, luxury. This is my default position, and I love being luxurious. Like, so I'm not even going to say that I don't want to do that. But there's a price, right? My Freebirds have a price more than just the $150 I spent on the Freebirds. I've spent over the course of my time, I spent like $3,000, maybe $4,000 on Freebirds, right? That $4,000 could be $10,000 today if I put it in investment. It means if I had put all the money I spent on those things into retirement, I would be retiring a few years early, right? Now, again, I'm not regretting that I did it. I had a great, great time. Like, it was so much fun. But it helps you to see the prices that you're actually paying so that moving forward, you can decide if you want to pay that price. Like, I just threw out half my Freebirds. So you know what I just threw away? $2,000. Well, that's bullshit, right? That's what you really want to be thinking about. Are you just going to throw this away in 2 years? Well, if you're going to throw it away, maybe you put it in retirement, right? Because at least then it'll be twice as much when you retire. Alrighty. Okay, so why do people do this? Why is it taboo to talk about failure and mistakes? How else do we learn? Best to learn from others' wisdom so we don't have to learn the hard way. Unfortunately, most of us are stubborn and have to learn the hard way. Oh, I have to learn the hard way most of the time. I try not to now. I think the reason why we're afraid is because we want to be liked and we want to be seen as, we don't want to be seen as stupid. We don't want to be seen. And I think that the language, because we're not very nuanced in our language in terms of how we talk, not like in here, obviously in here we're very nuanced, but, when you watch TV shows or movies, a lot of times, the judgment, there's a lot of judgment there, right? If somebody is homeless, well, clearly they're drug addicts or it's a result of poor choices in their life, right? There's a lot of judgment that comes with these things that is unfair and shouldn't be there, right? But we know that it's there. And we respond to the judgment that we think we're going to get, and we judge ourselves, right? Because for me, so let's go to the $70,000 in taxes that I didn't pay. I judged myself so hard. I felt like I should be smarter than this, right? And it took me a while to get comfortable with sharing it because I was so humiliated and so embarrassed and so, and I didn't understand how it had happened. And so for me, I just thought I was stupid. I was stupid and forgot to pay taxes. Now, the reason why I put the forgot in quotes is because I didn't forget. This is a consequence of overwork, of burnout, right? I blamed myself. Yes, the actions that I was doing were part of it, but it was part of a larger problem in the world of the system that exists that says, if you want to make money, you need to just keep working, work harder, do more hours. Then you get into adrenal fatigue. You're too tired to do a lot of things. You start making poor decisions because you're so exhausted from working all the time. And eventually you forget to pay taxes, right? And it's not forgetting, it's just, I'll do it tomorrow. And then suddenly you're like, oh, it's been a year and shit, I didn't pay the taxes, right? And you don't even realize it's happened, right? It's not stupidity, it's overwhelm, right? And overwhelm is coming from your desire to serve, right? So it's really about framing. And I think that when we start framing things in a non-judgmental way and talking about it like this, more people will feel comfortable. But I think as long as we create the judgment and create an unsafe space, and which a lot of places are unsafe to talk about this because people are judgy, it's hard, which is why I want to create these kinds of spaces. The show notes will be in the podcast, Didi, and the show notes will be in the podcast, and then Laura will update them because this is the live one. Alrighty, okay. Oh my God, dude, absolutely, Amber. Abuse will mess with your, I don't need to say that to you. You know what I'm talking about. Abuse will mess with your head, right? Therapy. I cannot stress therapy enough. I take all kinds of medications, some of them way fun, and some of them not so fun. But I take a lot of medications, and honestly, it's made a huge difference in my life. Okay. Alrighty. You're a 2.0. Nice. I love how, dude, it's totally fine. Whatever 0.0s we're at, right? Because that means you're making progress. Ultimately, if I love this, I just realized I love this 0.0 option, right? It doesn't matter what 0.0 you're at because some people get to 2.0 at the, like my dad, I don't know how many 0.0s he's had, but this is the best version of my dad ever. And I think he's at I don't even know what version he's at, but whether it's 2.0 or 10.0, it's the best version of him that's ever existed, right? So that's amazing. As long as we're moving forward and making progress, that's really the key. Oh my God, dude, Amber, my husband looks at his accounting incoming and outgoing daily. And I never look at it because if it's low, I'll have a panic attack. And if it's high, I'll spend. Dude, I can only look at him once every 2 weeks. That's what I do because I don't want to have a panic attack. Also, Didi, by the way, just thanks for mentioning about the show notes. What you just let me know is that I need to do better with the description and make sure that it's in there and like I'm adapting as I go. Look, I have my final, this is my final overlay. I've got my final overlay, so that's done, thank goodness, because we've been at 13 different overlays so far. So that's nailed down. I figured out the mic that I'm using. It's going to be my Yeti mic, so that's nailed down too. So slowly but surely, I'm nailing down these little anchors so I have the least amount of wiggle room, right? So the next anchor I'll put down, Didi, is what you said earlier about the show notes. Tara, hi Tara, good to see you, my friend. She says, this podcast hits so close to home. Great reminders and loving this message. I am so, so glad. This is something that my sister and I were talking about the other day, and it came up as just random conversation because of the move and I told her that I'm afraid. And so, she coached me out of it in that moment. Cause like, I know now this is something really important. And I want to invite all of you to do this. If you know that you have somebody who can help coach you out of those moments, like I know that Syra, Katie, Amy, can coach me out of certain moments, right? And so if I find myself in a bad headspace, I immediately find the person who is most equipped to help me with that specific thing. Or sometimes I need more than one, right? And so I'm like, Syra, I'm very, very anxious about money. And so Syra just gave me the same spiel that I just gave you, right? She gave me the whole spiel, but shorter. And I'm like, okay, yes. All right. This is what I needed. And then I was like, you know what? This is a good thing to talk about on Stop Shitting All Over Yourself, because I know I'm not alone in this, right? And so that's where that came from, is that the pendulum swings both ways, right? I drifted and I was like, I'm afraid. God, even when I think about that fear, it's so acute. I feel like crying. Like, it's a really real fear. Like and you remember it and you're like, oh God, I don't want to feel that. Right. Yeah, so many options. Ooh, when you get to a healthy money mindset, so many options. And what's weird is that when you first say it, right, it feels like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. So I want you to turn that as quickly as possible, because, okay, yeah, fine. You can't believe you did this. It sucks, but you did it. So whatever, it's happened, right? Flip around, look to the future, because the future is full of opportunity now, right? Because before you were in this little room, this little box where you felt like all I can do is make more money. Now you're like, whoa, I can do so many things. It's so cool, right? And now it's like a playground. It's only the fear part, that moment where you're judging yourself. That's the other lengthy part, right? So remember I talked about resentment to acceptance. The other lengthy part is judgment to acceptance, right? Judgment-free acceptance. That also takes a really long time. And that also sometimes will take years, right? Therapy helps with that, right? Those are the things: resentment to acceptance, judgment to acceptance. Those are the things, denial to acceptance. Those are the journeys that take the longest amount of time in your business. Once you have actually accepted whatever it is, it takes like 20 minutes. Literally, it doesn't take any time at all to start doing the thing that you want, because now you're just like, oh, I see where to go. Momentum is moving. So this moment is the hardest when you realize it. And then after that, it's golden. Okay. Dude, social programming has jacked us up in so many ways. And I got to tell you, like, the more I see that, the more excited I feel, because it means that I get to craft myself. I get to craft my own opinions. You get to craft yourself. You get to craft your own opinions. And to anybody who was like, forget it, whatever. I thought I had the wrong finger up. I was like, it's like, forget it. Peace out, people. If you're not on board with me determining for myself what makes me happy and me portraying my happiness in my way that doesn't injure anybody else, then you don't need to be here with me, right? The same thing is true for you, right? Because now you can, as you realize how many of like the preconceived notions we have came from things that we've seen, things that we've watched, things that people have told us, our parents' baggage and whatnot, you start to feel more comfortable saying, I don't need that. I'm done, right? 40 was such a great year for me, because I think that was the moment where I started to realize I just don't care anymore what people think about me. Now I just want to have an impact. I want to make a difference with people. And if there are people along the way who tell me that I don't know what, and I've had people, I literally had someone the other day tell me that I didn't know what I was doing. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, I am seeing your business and I'm seeing what you're doing to yours. So your feedback is not welcome, right? I didn't actually say that. I said, thank you for the feedback. And then I walked away, but I was like, they didn't know what they were talking about, right? That's the key. You start to realize that a lot of the people who are judging you just don't know what they're talking about, right? And that's the key. That is really the key. There's a lot of freedom to be had in doing some of this mental work, because it frees you from having to work all the time. And what's great about it is that it means that you can solve the problem of having to work all the time from multiple avenues. It doesn't have to just be one space, right? You can do all these little things, and over time you start to realize, oh, look, I have more time. How did that happen? It's because of all the work that you've been doing. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, I have to learn the hard way too, Didi. So learn the hard way. I'm like getting hit by a bus person. My husband retired at 56, which I semi-resented, but his time and the ability to do what he wants when he wants is his number one desire. he is super busy in retirement and almost never sits down, but he's doing what he wants when he wants and is super happy with less money. Exactly. That's really the key. And I think that's why I wanted to offer you guys the opportunity to sit down and marinate in it, because it took me a while to figure out what would really make me happy, because I was so caught up in the things that I thought would make me happy just because it's what I've always thought, right? The momentum just kept me on. So it's fluctuated, it's changed, but over the last year or so, like I got really, really clear and I became very clear about what I wanted. And one of those things about what I wanted was a house on the ocean, which I mean, I've wanted that since I was 14, but I got really clear on it. And I was like, this is what will make me happy. And, oh, look, it's 11 o'clock. Time to stop. And once I really, and I'll tell you, the time, it was Anna Maria in August was when Alex and I finally figured out what makes, like, we really were like, let's talk about this. And we really identified what made us happy. We are moving into our forever home, our dream home, in 42 days. And we're moving out of this house in 14 days, right? That's how fast life happens once you get really clear on what you want, because everything else becomes discardable and just a distraction, right? Because now you have clear focus. I was my own therapist for you know what? I bet you're a 4. I bet you're an Enneagram 4. Thank you. I'm so glad you like the overlay. I am so glad that you like the overlay. I have trialed and errored several different overlays to end up here last night. And I was like, you know what? This is the one I'm going to go with. But I want you guys to see all of the experimentation so you can see that you don't have to wait for it to be perfect. Just do the thing. Nobody cares. Y'all are still here. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. So we make more than we ever had and still feel that fear and need to have the hours. Despite having enough to live, I always feel the need to hustle and make more. Definitely going to work on it. Tara, please message me if you need any help, if you have any questions. I've been doing this for a really, really long time. So I can, even though if the squad isn't open right now, I can still direct you to places that will help. I would love to help you with that, because that is such freedom and I would love to be able to assist. Who said that? Oh, dude, people are... Don't mess with my nest. I know, right? It's, you know what's funny? In the moment, I was very taken aback and I didn't respond. I was like, right? And it took me 2 days to really understand what had actually happened. And once I put it in place, I was like, I understand what really happened here. And what happened was that my way is working and people are loving this way. And it's hard when you realize that the way that it was isn't the way that it's going to be anymore. And if you were really entrenched in the way it was, then you're going to resent whatever it is that I'm talking about. That's the problem, right? Is that there are people out there who hustle is the only way. Do it my way. I actually a client just signed up with me who has been seeing a bunch of coaches who I don't even know how they are able to stay in business because of the way that they're running their business, right? Oh shoot, I totally lost my train of thought. Why did I lose my literally? Hold on, I was talking about somebody coaches. Oh, all right. And it's because they come from, since 2015, business is totally different. Like, that's it. It doesn't matter who you talk to. If you are not training on 2015 future tactics, then you're training on antiquated tactics. And a lot of people are training on antiquated tactics because they haven't learned the future tactics. And it sucks. And I'm sad for them, but they need to learn them to move forward. Just because Facebook Live changed, not 2015. Yeah. Facebook Live changed everything. It changed everything. And if we're still operating the way we did before 2015, then that's where all the problems come from. So anyone who kind of right now, a lot of the people who are very, very resentful of what I'm doing are resentful because I'm basically saying that that's just not the way you do it, right? That you can't do it that way anymore because you will die. You will literally kill yourself. But that's okay. Like, everybody's on their own journey. And when the time comes that those people are ready and they realize that, oh my gosh, I need to do this, it's fine. That's great. They can come learn from me or somebody else, because I just want everybody to be successful. That's what I don't care how you get successful. I just want everybody to be happy, right? That's really what I want. All right. An Enneagram 4, Didi, an Enneagram. I feel like you're an Enneagram 4. I just vibing that way. Vibing. Okay. Alrighty. It is so hard to change. They don't like the way you do it because it's different and they're afraid of change. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Didi, you teach on future tactics. Like, a lot of you are doing future tactics right now. Like, that's the thing. You guys are already on the journey on future tactics. The issue, I think, is the coaches who train on past tactics. And that's where the fear comes in. Like, the post 2015 tactics. Like, that's where the fear comes from. But if you're on this live, then chances are you're already doing, thinking, or working in post 2015 tactics. It's the people who are not on this live that I worry about, or the people who are not, listening to like Brenda or Roxanne or or Molly, people who are really training in these future next gen tactics. Okay. Alrighty, guys. I know, right? Didi, I knew it would be you. I'm feeling it, right? Okay. You are absolutely amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. I know we went super long today, but this was like a really, really powerful conversation that I wanted to make sure we gave it its due justice. Please bookmark this. Please share this. This is something that you can share on your personal profile. And I rarely ask for this, but I feel like this was something super powerful. So please share this on your profile. Please share this with your teams. The key that I'm trying to get out from this is that you can take joy in your business, and there is a different way of doing it. And a lot of it has to do with just how we approach money. And I think that just by having this conversation or just by watching this, a lot of people who may even dismiss me, which is totally fine and never think of me again, will at least have this seed planted in their mind. And in 5-10 years, when they hear it again, it will remind them. So I'm not asking for this share so that I can make a ton of money. I'm asking for this share because I need this seed to get planted in as many brains as possible, so that over the course of the next, as many years as come, as people as more coaches start to train like this, they will come into contact with these ideas more and more and more. And eventually everyone will get to a point, or I hope, where they're like, oh my God, I can see a light at the end of the tunnel, right? And so really that's what I'm looking for. So share this with anyone who you feel would benefit from a money mindset reset. All right. Thank you guys so much. You guys are amazing. Ashley, the squad is currently closed. Send me a quick PM and I will let you know. We are opening up again in April, but I will let you know. You can go to the socialstrategysquad.com. The blueprint for how to do the squad work is in there, but you can send me a message and I can let you know when we're opening and get you on the wait list and everything. All righty, guys, you are amazing. Thank you so much for spending this morning with me. What am I going to do now? I'm going to go continue packing. I think we're almost done. Like the house is almost packed, but I'm going to go continue packing now. All right.